This video is brought to you by the Raven Space Patreon page. Without your help, we cannot do any of the cool things we do, so Patreon allows you to support us and support independent media. And when you support us, we support you by giving you early access to videos, special giveaways, and even Ravens tickets. So check out the Raven Space Patreon and support today. Welcome to the Raven Space on YouTube. My name is Jason, and this is Raven Space Mailbag, where we answer your questions about the Baltimore Ravens. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Please subscribe if you're not yet subscribed. Also, a special shout out to our Patreon subscribers, because without you guys, none of this is possible. Thank you guys so much. If you want to send your question to this show or to the Raven Space Daily Show, please send it to mailbag@theravenspace.com. Thank you guys so much. We're going to hop into our first question. This question comes from John, and John asks, who is the best player on the Ravens defense right now? Thank you so much for the question, John. And I think this is a very hard question, really. It just matters what you favor. If you honestly think that it starts at the defensive line, then it's going to be Brandon Williams. If you think that, Eric Weddle or Tony Jefferson are rangy and that they make up the team, you can pick them. For me personally, I'm going to go with CJ Mosley. And it's real simple. CJ Mosley can do every single thing on the field. He's the most complete Baltimore Ravens player, and he may even have the highest potential of any Baltimore Ravens player. And it's just because, like I said, he can do anything. He can go up and stop the run. He's a sure tackler. I've seen him blitz before with some success, especially in those stunts in the middle. He can do things. And his best ability over this last couple of years that's been sneaky, consistent, is his ability to drop back in coverage. In my opinion, he's one of the best coverage linebackers in the league. Not as good as maybe a Luke Kuechly, who I think is just an awesome coverage linebacker. You have a Sean Lee for Dallas, who's also an awesome coverage linebacker. But I think CJ Mosley is up there. Not as good maybe as those two, but better than many other people in coverage. And it showed by the amount of interceptions he got last year. But again, a sideline player. He runs the Baltimore Ravens defense, which is a very complex defense. It's not a simple defense like other schemes in the NFL. He does it all. I think that his ability to read offenses, his ability to play that mental chess game, his ability to come up and make tackles, his ability to drop back in zone coverage. And then I know a lot of linebackers are limited in man coverage, but he does the best man coverage he can, better than any other linebacker on the Baltimore Ravens. So I think that he is the best defensive player right now. He will be number one. A close second, in my opinion, will be Tony Jefferson. I like Tony Jefferson more than Eric Weddle because he can do more blitzes, and he's more aggressive at the line of scrimmage. Eric Weddle can be that, but Eric Weddle is really a free safety, in my opinion. So thank you so much for your question, John. It was a very good question. Thank you so much for sending it in, and we're going to move on to the next one. And this question comes from Chrominus, and Chrominus asks, other than the Steelers and Patriots, what other teams can seriously rival the Ravens in the AFC? Thank you so much for your question, Chrominus. There are a lot of teams, in my opinion. I don't think the Ravens are a top 3 team in the league, and the 2 teams that you named are top teams in the league. The Patriots is the best team in the league, and the Steelers are right behind them. I think the Ravens are a tier lower than them. Now, again, anything can happen in the playoffs if the Ravens can get there. But as of today, going, in the season, first game, I just think that the Raiders are just as good as the Ravens. I think they can compete with us. I think that the Broncos, their defense is so good that they can compete with us. I'm not really up on the Chargers. A lot of people are, but I am not. I think people in our own division, I think the Bengals can compete with us. I don't think the Bengals are that far behind the Ravens. Of course, I don't think any of the teams in the AFC East other than the Patriots are good enough to compete with us. And I don't think any of the teams in the AFC South are good enough to compete with us. Maybe the Texans, because the Texans have that great defense. But I would say if the Ravens are your 6th playoff team, I think that there are 5 teams that you can argue that are better than the Ravens. The Chiefs. I can argue that the Chiefs are better than the Ravens, even though they don't have an explosive quarterback. They have an explosive defense. They have explosive weapons at receiver. We stole one in Macklin, but they still have other ones. And I think that even though they're a team that kind of can't get over the hump, that they are just as talented as the Ravens, and the way the Ravens are going to win is by having players perform in clutch time, and be that tough, rugged team that goes on the road and wins playoff games like we have been in the past. But I think there's several teams that I just named, Chromis, that can stick with the Ravens and give the Ravens a good fight for their money. So thank you so much for the question, and we're going to move on to the next one. And this question comes from Mike, and Mike asks, what are your expectations for Joe Flacco this season? Thank you so much for your question, Mike. And I think this is going to be Joe Flacco's best season. I really do. I really, really do. And it's simply just because he has the best receivers that he's ever had. I think he'll throw for the most passing yards, his most passing touchdowns. I do not think it'll be his most attempts, though. Last year was a big attempt number. I don't think he'll throw that many times. But I do think that with his better receiving options, that he has a chance to have a lot of big plays. Again, Mike Wallace, a big play machine. Bashar Perriman, hopefully, with his speed and his size, will become a big play machine. Jeremy Maclin has shown us, especially in Kansas City, that first year when he was completely healthy, that he is also a big play machine. And you have tight ends that, aren't real big play machines but have a chance. You have Danny Woodhead, that's a great receiver out the backfield, and he'll give you a chance. I just think that you have people at all times. You'll have at least 4 players that can catch the ball very, very well. And Joe Flacco, in my opinion, has never ever had that. In the past, you've had 1 or 2 receivers that were very, very consistent, very, very good. But now he has receivers that can really do it day in and day out, in my opinion. So I do think that this will be Joe Flacco's best season in the NFL. And I think it's going to be one of those seasons that are going to put people on notice if he can get chemistry with his receivers and the offensive line can protect. The offensive line is the key to this thing because they're going to get the Ravens to be able to run the ball on first down and protect Joe Flacco. And if that can happen, I think this will be Joe Flacco's best season in the NFL. I am a Joe Flacco fan, so I might be a little biased. I do know that he is limited in some areas, but we all know Joe Flacco is best when he has a big-time players around him, and this year he has big-time receiving talent and maybe the best pass-catching running back other than Ezekiel Elliott and Le'Veon Bell in the league. So I really do think that this is going to be a big year for Joe Flacco. Thank you so much for your question, Mike, and we're going to move on to the next one. And this question comes from Randy, and Randy asks, are you impressed by the job Ozzie Newsome and Eric DeCosta have done this season? Thank you so much for your question, Randy. And I'm going to let you guys know, and I'm sure a lot of you guys know, I first started this channel a little bit before the NFL draft. And when the draft came, it was like my first big event, right? You guys have my opinion, and I think that I was very negative on the draft because I really thought that if the Ravens would have went and got O.J. Howard, and I still think this, that this offense would be light years better than it has ever been. Can you imagine O.J. Howard, Mike Wallace, Maclin, Perriman, and Danny Woodhead? That's crazy. No Ravens team has ever had that much offensive talent. But they went and got a cornerback who's not going to play. I'm sorry that you guys know Marlon Humphrey is going to play less than 10 snaps. This first game, he's going to play less than 10 snaps the second game, the third game. He's just not ready to go against starters, and that's just the truth. Now, that's not saying maybe Brandon Carr, plays terribly. I don't think so. I really do think that I was disappointed in the draft. However, 2 things brought that back up. Ozzie Newsome's ability to find free agent rookies is amazing, and he hit, in my opinion, he hit 3 home runs, and maybe even more, right? Because in my opinion, he hit Jalen Hill home run, he hit Tim White home run, and he had Taquan Mizzell, which in my opinion is a home run. And then you have other players too that I don't think are home runs, but are going to be very, very good. Bam Bradley's an example. You have Patrick Ricard as an example. These players that are going to help make the team in the future. You got Quincy Adebojo. These players are going to be very productive for the Ravens. And that was one phase that kind of made me like, okay, it wasn't the draft that I wanted, but it's a draft that's going to help the defense, and it's a draft that is going to be supplemented by other things. And the other thing was the ability to get free agents late. to get draft trades late, right? We didn't see Jerry Maclin coming. If I would have known Jerry Maclin was out there before the draft, I wouldn't have been upset that we didn't go get a receiver in the second round, right? So his ability to do stuff like that really impressed me. To make, to take a situation that's bad and turn it good really impressed me. To get Austin Howard, I think, is a very good patch. To go trade for 2 backup offensive linemen who are veterans, who are still young enough to make an impact. Stuff like that really impressed me. So overall, if I had to take everything into account, I would give Ozzie an A. He significantly improved the wide receiver core, in my opinion. He improved the defense, made them younger. If you watch the defense now versus how it was last year and the year before, it's a stark difference, right? 2 years ago, you had Ladarius Webb trying to, chase people who ran 4.3s. That's not going to happen now. You have Jalen Hill. You have Tavon Young, who's injured right now, but that just shows the youth that Ozzie has accumulated on this defense. And it's only good problems. I think that Ozzie has set us up defensively for the future. And I think that next year is going to be offense, and we're going to see a lot of offensive draft picks to set the Ravens up for the future. And I'm super impressed by Ozzie. That's the answer. I know I'm going on long. That is the answer. I am impressed, Randy, by Ozzie Newsome this year. Even though it started off bad for me personally, it got better, and I really do think that he's built a team that can win in the future. I really do think that. So thank you so much for your question, Randy. And that is the end of the episode today. Thank you guys so much for sending in questions, and thank you guys so much for watching. I truly do appreciate it. Please subscribe to Ravens Space on YouTube if you're not yet subscribed for the best Baltimore Ravens content on the internet. Also, if you want to support us and support independent media, please check out our Patreon page in the description below. Every little bit helps. We appreciate you guys' support, so thank you so much. Follow us on different social media channels for special content there. Thank you guys so much for supporting and watching this show. I appreciate it, and go Ravens.